Mr. Speaker, I am a fighter and not a quitter.
2 hours later.
Majesty the King, to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party.
Holy flippity flip flop flap and smokes, everyone! London has fallen. The UK government has collapsed. Liz Truss has resigned after the complete market turmoil we have seen over the past few weeks, where the UK pension funds nearly went bust, where we've seen the pound crashing, we've seen inflation reach record highs in the UK, and now enough is enough and she has officially resigned. I was in bed, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, didn't want to make another video, but this is urgent news. You need to know what is happening right now and why it happened and what the implications will be. So let's go right to her announcement now.
I came into Prime Minister Liz Truss at a time of great economic and international instability. Families and businesses were worried about how to pay their bills. Putin's illegal war in Ukraine threatens the security of our whole continent, and our country has been held back for too long by low economic growth. I was elected by the Conservative Party with a mandate to change this. We delivered on energy bills and on cutting national insurance. And we set out a vision for a low-tax, high-growth economy that would take advantage of the freedoms of Brexit. I recognise, though, given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party. This morning I met the chairman of the 1922 committee, Sir Graham Brady. We've agreed that there will be a leadership election to be completed within the next week. This will ensure that we remain on a path to deliver our fiscal plans and maintain our country's economic stability and national security. I will remain as Prime Minister until a successor has been chosen. Thank you.
So well, people, that did not last long at all. She went over, she was able to do some stimulus measures for the UK people, like limiting energy and insurance bills, but she said she failed on her election promise of providing tax cuts and a high growth and low tax environment. But there's a bit more spicy drama to the story, everyone. So let's dig a bit deeper, see what really happened and what is really going to happen to the UK economy and the markets and what consequences this has for the rest of the world. Because people, things are getting absolutely crazy. So again, UK Prime Minister Liz Truss resigns after failed budget and market turmoil. London UK Prime Minister Liz Truss resigned Thursday following a failed tax-cutting budget that rocketed financial markets, which led to revolt within her own Conservative Party. And to say it led to some financial volatility is an understatement, everybody. Literally what her tax cuts nearly did was it nearly broke the whole UK financial system. We saw pension funds get margin called, the interest rate on the government debt skyrocketed, and now inflation in the UK has reached all-time highs. But let's get into some of the drama that's been happening in her own party. The party is now due to complete a leadership election within the next week, faster than the usual 2-month period. Graham Brady, the Conservative politician who is in charge of leadership votes and reshuffles, told reporters he was now looking at how the vote could include Conservative MPs and the wider party members. So this is absolutely crazy, everyone. Queen Elizabeth II saw 15 prime ministers in her lifetime, and it's looking like King Charles, at this rate, may beat her by Christmas. Truss was in office for just 44 days, making her the shortest serving prime minister in British history. Well, at least she got out of the job with a nice pension and a new record. For 10 days of her premiership government, business was paused following the death of Queen Elizabeth II. So for all my viewers in the UK, what is your confidence in the UK government right now? And hey, I'm not saying there's a lot of confidence in the US government with the Australian government, but things in the UK government are looking very unstable. And in me, if I was an investor in the UK, I would not have a lot of confidence in my assets. I don't have a lot of confidence in the UK financial system. But luckily for me, I don't have any assets in the UK right now. Her resignation came after a meeting with Brady, who chairs the 1922 committee, the group of Conservative MPs without ministerial positions who can submit letters of no confidence in the Prime Minister. So is it kind of like passing a note in primary school where you pass the note and you tell the other kids, look, we don't really like this one, let's try to get her out of here. She's a bit of a teacher's pet. Just before the meeting, a Downing Street spokesperson told reporters Truss wanted to stay in office. So they're saying she wanted to stay in office, but she resigned. So what I really think it was is her party forced her to resign. I don't know if you saw in the video, but she looked pretty happy about it and looked like a lot of stress was off her shoulders. And she's laughing to the bank again with that pension. During the hour the meeting lasted, the number of MPs publicly calling for Truss to step down reached 17. The number who have written letters to Brady expressing no confidence in the Prime Minister was reported to be more than 100 by Thursday. Good old politicians, they always got each other's backs, don't they? And when I say they've always got each other's backs, I mean they've always got knives to each other's backs. Opposition parties Labour, the Scottish National Party, and the Liberal Democrats called for an immediate general election on Thursday afternoon. The Labour leader Keir Starmer said the Conservative Party has shown it no longer has a mandate to govern. And me, I don't really get into politics in the UK at all, so I've got no biases here at all, but yeah. It's kind of looking like things are pretty bad for the Conservative Party right now. But hey, at least she wasn't the shortest serving in her government. The Finance Minister had an even shorter sentence than her. On September 23rd, Truss Finance Minister Kwasi Kwarteng announced a so-called mini-budget which began a turbulent period for UK bond markets, which balked at debt-funded tax cuts he put forward. Most of the policies were reversed 3 weeks later by the second Finance Minister, Jeremy Hunt. And just look at some of the devastation this Finance Minister was able to do in just a few weeks. Well, UK inflation hits 40-year high of 10.1%. Price rises driven by soaring food costs, piling pressure on government finances. So that's right, people, the official numbers are now in double digits. And if the Bank of England thinks it's going to be able to bring it down with 5 or 6% interest rates, they need to think again. And he almost managed to collapse the pension funds, UK pension funds' dumb assets to meet margin calls. And he did a great job of collapsing the pound. The pound is down 19% over the past year. Paul Daines, chief UK economist at Capital Economists, said the new PM would need to do more to regain the trust of financial markets. And this is something with the markets. Once you lose trust, it's very hard to gain back. But hopefully this new Prime Minister can regain the trust, but there is so much uncertainty right now, and nobody knows what's going to happen in the short term, but for the long term, the UK is going to be facing a painful recession, and for many, it will be a depression. In just a few weeks, fiscal policy has swung from being ultra loose to less loose to outright tight. This has increased the downside risk to our forecast. The economy will enter a recession involving a peak to trough fall in GDP of around 2%. Although that itself means there is also a downside risk to our forecast that interest rates would rise to 5%. So okay people, they're admitting the UK is going to be in a painful recession. And yes, they're already in one right now. But what they're not putting in the calculation is interest rates are going to have to go to much higher than 5%. What is insanity? Doing the same thing again and again and again. We've seen these central banks lift interest rates by 0.5%, by 75 basis points. Is inflation going down? No, it's going to get worse. And like everyone was delusional by saying there's no way interest rates will go to 2%, then they said there's no way they'll go to 3%, then 4%, 5%. Well, people are still delusional that what central banks are going to have to do, like they've always had to do in history, is lift interest rates above the inflation rate. But the long-term damage may have already been done. Listen to this.
In taking that into account, do you think that there's long-term damage then to the economy as a whole and I suppose the fiscal balance sheet?
There's undoubtedly a long-term damage because there's been more uncertainty created, there's lack of stability in policy. What you've seen the current Chancellor do is try and reassert that certainty and stability, but once that credibility is lost, it is very hard to regain, and clearly the government is going all out to regain it at the moment.
So everyone, like he warned there, the IMF, the banks, they're telling him, what are you doing? This is going to crash the markets. But they're being stubborn, they went ahead with their policy, and this caused huge long-term damage in, like he said, faith and confidence in the financial system. And like he also said, once that's gone, it's very, very hard to get back. So everyone, I know what you're thinking, well, okay, what does all this mean for us, for the global economy, for the UK economy, etc.? Well, what this simply means is, everybody, there's so much uncertainty. We're going to have to wait to see what new government gets in, what new policies they have to bring in, and guess what? They're going to be very tight policies, and very tight policies right when the UK is entering into a recession is going to be a recipe for disaster. Also, the Bank of England credibility is on the line because last week they announced they would buy unlimited amount of government bonds to save the bond market. Right when inflation was at record highs and right when they were meant to announce that they would start quantitative tightening and selling assets on their balance sheet, they did the opposite. So also what's going to happen for the Bank of England, not just the government, they're going to have to bring in some crazy high interest rates. They're going to have to do some very big interest rate hikes to regain that credibility. So just because markets are calm now doesn't mean we won't see something blow up in the UK financial system, and that could have contagion effects across the whole global economy, like what it did when the bond market blew up. We saw this cause a lot of uncertainty throughout the rest of the world, and stocks around the world began to crash. We have to be vigilant, pay attention, because the markets are on the edge, waiting for one wrong step for them to begin tanking again. So everyone, what do you think about the madness that is going on in the UK right now? What do you UK citizens think about this? What are you feeling? Let me know in the comments below. Now, for my loyal viewers and subscribers still watching, you're awesome. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.